Bisi, a 14-year-old girl living in the small town of Akuri, found herself in a difficult situation. Despite repeated warnings from her parents, she had been secretly meeting her boyfriend. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "You're too young to have a boyfriend. Focus on being useful to yourself and leave boys alone for now." But Bisi, driven by curiosity and what she thought was love, continued to disobey. She would sneak out whenever she could, making excuses to her parents about studying at a friend's house or running errands. One day, after feeling unwell for weeks, Bisi realized she was pregnant. Her heart raced as she approached her boyfriend with the news. I think I'm pregnant," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Her boyfriend's face drained of color. "What? No, that's impossible. It can't be mine," he said, backing away from her. Bisi felt her world crumbling. "But you're the only one I've been with," she pleaded. "I don't care. I'm not ready for this. Don't tell anyone it's mine," he said coldly before walking away, leaving Bisi alone and scared. For weeks, Bisi struggled to keep her secret. She wore loose clothes and tried to act normal, but the fear of discovery consumed her. Every morning, she woke up dreading the moment her parents would find out. One night, as she lay in bed, she overheard her parents talking in the living room. "I'm worried about Bisi," her mother said. "She's been acting strange lately." "Maybe she's finally taking her studies seriously," her father replied. "It's about time she listened to us about focusing on her future." Bisi felt a pang of guilt. She knew her parents had high hopes for her, and now she had let them down in the worst way possible. The fear of disappointing her parents, coupled with the terror of becoming a mother at such a young age, overwhelmed her. She imagined the beating she might receive, the shame she would bring to her family, and the possibility of being kicked out of her home. "What am I going to do?" she whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face. For days, Bisi wrestled with her options. She considered telling her parents, hoping they might understand, but every time she tried to bring it up, her courage failed her. One afternoon, as she walked home from school, she passed by the bus station. She stopped, staring at the buses lined up, ready to take people to far-off places. An idea began to form in her mind. That night, Bisi lay awake, her mind racing. "I can't stay here," she thought. "I can't face them. I can't face anyone." The next morning, after her parents left for work, Bisi made her decision. With shaking hands, she packed a small bag with some clothes and the little money she had saved. As she stood in her room one last time, she looked around at the familiar surroundings. Her school books on the desk, photos of her friends on the wall, the teddy bear she'd had since childhood sitting on her bed. Everything reminded her of the life she was about to leave behind. Bisi scribbled a quick note. "I'm sorry. I love you. Please don't look for me." She left it on her bed, hoping it would buy her some time before they started searching. With a heavy heart, she slipped out of the house. As she walked towards the bus station, every step felt like lead. She kept looking over her shoulder, afraid someone might recognize her and stop her. At the bus station, Bisi approached the ticket counter. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the attendant. "One ticket, please. To wherever the next bus is going." The attendant looked at her curiously but didn't ask any questions. "Next bus is to Lagos. Leaves in 10 minutes. Bisi nodded, handing over most of her money for the ticket. As she waited for the bus, she thought about her parents coming home to find her gone. She imagined their worry, their anger, their disappointment. But in her mind, this was the only way. As the bus pulled up, Bisi took one last look at the town she had called home for 14 years. Tears welled up in her eyes as she boarded, knowing she was leaving behind everything and everyone she knew. The bus lurched forward, and Bisi watched through the window as a curé faded into the distance. She placed a hand on her stomach, feeling the weight of her decision and the uncertainty of her future. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her parents, to her unborn child, and to herself. As the bus sped towards Lagos, Bisi closed her eyes, hoping that somehow, somewhere, she would find a way to make things right. After several hours of driving, the bus finally came to a stop at a bustling park in Lagos. Bisi stepped off the bus, her legs wobbly from the long journey. She stared wide-eyed at her new surroundings, overwhelmed by the noise, the crowds, and the towering buildings. This was nothing like her small town in Akure.
"Where am I supposed to go now?" BC muttered to herself, clutching her small bag tightly. She had spent her last naira on the bus ticket, leaving her with no money and no idea where to go. The reality of her situation began to sink in. She was alone, pregnant, and lost in a big city she knew nothing about. As the sun began to set, BC wandered the streets of Lagos. Her stomach growled with hunger, reminding her that she hadn't eaten since morning. She passed by food vendors, the aroma of their wares making her mouth water, but she had no money to buy anything. "Excuse me," she tried asking a passerby. "Do you know where I can find a cheap place to stay?" The person barely glanced at her before hurrying away, leaving BC feeling even more alone. As darkness fell, BC's fear grew. She had nowhere to sleep, and the streets were becoming more intimidating by the minute. She kept walking, her feet aching, hoping to find somewhere safe to rest. In a quieter part of the city, BC spotted an elderly woman locking up what looked like a small shop. Desperate for help, she approached the woman. "Good evening, Ma," BC said, her voice trembling. "Please, I'm new in this place and I'm lost. I can't find my way. Could you please let me sleep at your house until tomorrow? Please help me." The elderly woman looked at BC with surprise and suspicion. "What do you mean you're lost? What are you doing on the street at this time of night? Where are your parents?" she asked, her voice sharp with concern and a hint of accusation. BC, feeling cornered and desperate, decided to tell the truth. I ran away from home," she admitted, her eyes welling up with tears. "I'm pregnant, and I was afraid to tell my parents. I have nowhere to go." The woman's expression changed from surprise to disappointment. "You got pregnant? As young as you are? You're already pregnant? You must be a stubborn girl," she said, shaking her head. "Now go away from me. I can't help you." BC felt her heart sink. She had hoped the woman would take pity on her, but instead she found herself being chased away once again. With tears streaming down her face, she walked away, feeling more alone than ever. As she continued her aimless wandering, exhaustion began to take over. BC found a large tree in a quiet area and sat down, leaning against its trunk. Her eyelids felt heavy, and she was just about to drift off when she heard footsteps approaching. BC's eyes snapped open, and she saw a group of young men walking towards her. Their loud voices and aggressive body language made her heart race with fear. Without thinking, she jumped to her feet and started running. "Hey, where are you going?" one of the boys shouted, and to BC's horror, she heard them start to chase her. Her pregnant body protested as she ran as fast as she could, her breath coming in short gasps. "Please, God, help me," she prayed silently as she darted down unfamiliar streets, trying to lose her pursuers. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, BC could no longer hear the boys behind her. She slowed down, her lungs burning and her legs shaking. She found herself in a quiet, partially developed area of the city. As she caught her breath, BC's thoughts turned to her family back in Akure. She imagined her mother discovering her empty room, the note she had left. She could almost hear her father's angry voice, her mother's sobs. The guilt and homesickness washed over her. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry, Papa," she whispered into the night, tears falling freely now. As she walked through the quiet area, BC spotted an unfinished building. It was just a concrete shell with no windows or doors, but it offered some shelter from the elements and prying eyes. Cautiously, she approached the structure. "Hello?" she called out softly, making sure no one else was using it as a shelter. When she received no response, she stepped inside. The floor was hard and dusty, but to BC's exhausted body, it felt like a luxury. She found a corner that was partially hidden from view of the entrance and settled down, using her small bag as a pillow. As she lay there, trying to get comfortable, BC placed a hand on her stomach. "I'm sorry, little one," she whispered to her unborn child. "I don't know what we're going to do, but I'll figure something out, I promise." The night was long and uncomfortable. Every sound made BC jump, fearing that someone had found her hiding place. But as the first light of dawn began to filter into the unfinished building, she realized she had made it through her first night in Lagos. Sitting up and stretching her sore muscles, BC looked around her makeshift shelter. It wasn't much, but for now, it was the only place she had. "I guess this is home now," she said to herself, her voice a mixture of resignation and determination. As the city outside began to wake up, BC steeled herself for the challenges ahead. She had no money, no food, and no plan. But she was alive, and for now, that had to be enough. With a deep breath, she stepped out of the building, ready to face her first full day in this strange, overwhelming city. As time passed, BC's pregnancy progressed rapidly. Life in Lagos was incredibly hard for her. Each day was a struggle to find food and stay safe. She often resorted to begging on the streets, approaching strangers with pleading eyes. "Please, can you spare some food?" she would ask passers-by. Some ignored her, while others gave her small portions or a few naira. To earn a little money, BC started washing clothes for people in the neighborhood. "I can wash your clothes for you?" she'd offer to women she saw in the area. "I'll do a good job, I promise." One woman, Mrs. AO, became a regular client. "You're a hard worker, BC," she'd say, handing over a small payment. "But you shouldn't be doing this in your condition." BC would just nod, grateful for the work. "Thank you, Ma. I have no choice." Months went by like this, with BC barely scraping by. Then, one evening, as she sat in her makeshift home in the unfinished building, she felt a sharp pain. "Oh no," she gasped, realizing what was happening. "Not now. Please, not now." But the baby was coming, and BC was all alone. She screamed in pain, her cries echoing in the empty structure. "Help! Somebody help me!" she yelled, but no one was around to hear. For hours, BC pushed and cried, the pain unlike anything she had ever experienced. "I can't do this," she sobbed, but her body kept working to bring the baby into the world. Finally, with one last agonizing push, the baby was born. BC, exhausted and in shock, stared at the tiny crying infant. "Hello, little one," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. With shaking hands, she cleaned the baby as best she could, using the cleanest cloth she had. As she held her child, a boy, BC was filled with a mix of love and despair. She knew she couldn't provide for him. She had no money, no home, no way to keep him healthy and safe. "What am I going to do with you?" she asked the baby, who had quieted and was looking up at her with unfocused eyes. "I want to keep you, but I can't. I'm so sorry." BC spent the night holding her son, trying to feed him and keep him warm, but as the sun rose, she knew she had to make a difficult decision. She couldn't keep the baby with her. It would be a death sentence for both of them. An idea formed in her mind, a way to give her son a chance at life. It broke her heart, but she knew it was the only way. "I have to be strong," she told herself. "For you, my little one, for you." She looked into his tiny face, her heart heavy with the decision she was about to make. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she spoke softly to him. "My sweet baby," BC whispered, her voice trembling. "Please forgive me for what I'm about to do. I know you won't understand, but I'm so sorry. This is the only way I can give you a chance at a better life. I want you to know that I love you so much." The baby cooed softly, unaware of his mother's turmoil. BC hugged him tightly, trying to memorize every detail of his tiny face. With shaking hands, BC wrapped the baby in the cleanest cloth she had. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to do. "It's time," she murmured, more to herself than to the baby. BC stepped out of her shelter, holding her son close. She walked to the next street, where she knew a wealthy family lived. Their large house stood out among the other buildings, a symbol of prosperity that BC could only dream of. As she approached the billionaire's house, doubt crept into her mind. "What if this doesn't work?" she thought. "What if they don't find him?" But she knew she had to try. It was her son's only chance at a good life. With a final kiss on her baby's forehead, BC gently placed him near the gate of the mansion. She arranged the cloth to make sure he was comfortable and visible. "Be safe, my love," she whispered, before quickly moving away to hide behind a nearby tree. From her hiding spot, BC watched the gate intently. Minutes passed, feeling like hours to the anxious mother. Finally, the gate opened. BC held her breath as she saw a well-dressed couple step out. It was the billionaire and his wife. The couple stopped abruptly, their eyes landing on the bundle near their feet. "What's this?" the man asked, bending down to look closer. His wife gasped. It's a baby. Oh my goodness, how did it get here?" They looked around, searching for any sign of who might have left the child. BC pressed herself against the tree, her heart pounding. "We can't leave it out here," the woman said, carefully picking up the baby. "Let's take him inside and figure out what to do." The couple retreated into their house, carrying BC's son with them. BC watched them go, her emotions a mix of relief and heartbreak. She slid down the tree trunk, sobbing quietly. "Be good to him," she pleaded silently to the wealthy couple. "Give him the life I can't." With a heavy heart, BC stood up and walked away from the billionaire's house. She knew she had made the right decision for her baby, but it didn't make the pain any easier to bear. As she made her way back to her shelter, BC whispered a final goodbye to her son. "I hope you have a wonderful life, my dear. Maybe someday, somehow, we'll meet again." Inside their luxurious home, Mr. Olu and his wife Lola carefully carried the baby to their bedroom. They placed the infant on their large bed, both staring at the tiny bundle in disbelief. "What do we do now, Olu?" Lola asked, her voice filled with a mix of concern and excitement. Mr. Olu ran his hand through his hair, looking just as bewildered. I'm not sure. We should probably call the police, report this." Lola gently touched the baby's cheek, her eyes filling with tears. "But look at him, Olu. He's so small, so helpless." The couple exchanged a meaningful look. They had been trying to have a child for years, spending fortunes on fertility treatments, all to no avail. The pain of their inability to conceive had been a constant shadow over their otherwise successful lives. Mr. Olu sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. "You know, Lola, maybe this isn't a coincidence. We've prayed for a child for so long." Lola nodded, hope blooming in her chest. "Do you think? Could this be our miracle?" Mr. Olu reached out and took his wife's hand. "Maybe it is. Maybe this is the gift we've been waiting for all these years." They both looked at the baby, who was now sleeping peacefully, unaware of the life-changing decision being made around him. "We could give him a wonderful life," Lola said softly. "Everything we've always wanted to give to our child." Mr. Olu nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "You're right. We shall keep the baby. This is our chance to be parents, Lola." Tears of joy streamed down Lola's face as she carefully picked up the baby. "Hello, little one. We're your new mom and dad." Mr. Olu wrapped his arms around his wife and their new son. "We need to give him a name. What do you think?" Lola thought for a moment. "How about Tunde? It means returns or comes back. Like he has returned joy to our lives." "Tunde," Mr. Olu repeated, testing the name. "I like it. Welcome to the family, Tunde." As the reality of their sudden parenthood sank in, Mr. Olu's practical side kicked in. "You know, Lola, with our busy schedules, we might need some help. Maybe we should hire a nanny to watch over Tunde when we're at work." Lola nodded in agreement. "That's a good idea. We want to give Tunde all the care and attention he needs. I'll start looking for someone right away." "We'll find the perfect person to help us take care of our son," Mr. Olu said. As they continued to marvel at their unexpected blessing, neither Mr. Olu nor Lola could have imagined the true story behind Tunde's arrival or the challenges that lay ahead in their new journey as parents. BC couldn't shake off the guilt and worry about her decision to leave her baby at the billionaire's mansion. She spent her days and nights walking around the property, her mind filled with questions and doubts. "Did I make the right choice?" she would mutter to herself, staring at the grand gates. "Is my baby okay in there?" One evening, as she paced near the mansion, a security guard approached her. "Miss, are you lost? You've been here for hours," he said. BC jumped, startled. "No, I'm just walking," she stammered. The guard looked at her suspiciously. "This isn't a public park. You can't stay here." BC nodded and walked away, her heart heavy. She found a nearby bench and sat down, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, my baby," she whispered. "I hope you're happy in there." Sleep became a luxury for BC. Every night she tossed and turned in her makeshift shelter, her mind racing with thoughts of her child. Is he being cared for? Does he miss me? She would ask the darkness, receiving no answer. One day, as BC walked her usual route around the mansion, something caught her eye. A notice was posted on the wall. Nanny needed. Her heart raced as she read it. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This could be my chance to see my baby again." BC stood there, staring at the notice, her mind racing. She knew it was risky. What if they recognized her? What if she couldn't handle being so close to her child without revealing the truth? She paced back and forth, talking to herself. Should I do this? Can I even pull it off? After hours of internal debate, BC made her decision. "I have to try," she said firmly. "I need to know he's okay." The next day, BC cleaned herself up as best she could and went to apply for the job. She rehearsed her story over and over. "Good morning," she said nervously to the woman at the gate. "I'm here about the nanny position." To BC's surprise, she was ushered in immediately. She found herself sitting across from Mr. Olu and his wife. "So, BC, tell us about your experience with children," Mr. Olu said. BC took a deep breath. "I love children," she said, thinking of her baby. "I've helped raise my younger siblings and cousins." Lola smiled. "That's wonderful. How do you handle difficult situations with children?" "With patience and understanding," BC replied, her voice steadier now. The interview continued, and to BC's shock, it ended with Mr. Olu saying, "Well, BC, we'd like to offer you the position. Can you start tomorrow?" BC nodded, barely able to speak. As she left the mansion, a mix of excitement and fear filled her. She was going to see her baby again. But at what cost? BC started her job as a nanny in the billionaire's household, her heart racing every time she saw Tunde. She had to remind herself constantly not to show too much emotion. "Good morning, Tunde," she'd say softly each day, fighting the urge to scoop him up and never let go. Lola noticed BC's gentle way with the baby. "You're so good with him, BC," she said one day. "He really seems to like you." BC smiled nervously. "Thank you, Ma. He's a wonderful baby." When the family was out, BC would hold Tunde close, whispering to him, "My sweet boy, I'm your mama. I wish I could tell you." She'd breastfeed him during these times, cherishing the bond. "This is our secret, okay?" she'd say, tears in her eyes. As weeks passed, Tunde began to show a strong preference for BC. He'd cry when she left the room and calm instantly in her arms. Mr. Olu commented on it one evening. "It's amazing how attached Tunde is to you, BC. You must have a special touch." "Oh, I just try my best, sir," BC replied, her heart pounding. Lola added, "We're so lucky to have found you. Tunde clearly loves you." BC nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She was grateful for this time with her son, but the secret was becoming harder to bear each day. That night, as she put Tunde to bed, she whispered, "I love you so much, my little one, more than you'll ever know." One sunny afternoon, Mr. Olu and Lola were sitting on their patio, enjoying the pleasant weather. They watched as BC played with Tunde on a blanket spread out on the lawn. Lola turned to her husband, a slight frown on her face. "Honey, I don't know, but have you noticed how attached that nanny is to Tunde?" Mr. Olu nodded, his eyes focused on BC and the baby. "I was just about to mention that, my darling. We hired her to watch over Tunde, but she seems almost too attached to him. It's a bit unusual, don't you think?" They watched as BC tickled Tunde, making him giggle loudly. The sound of the baby's laughter filled the air. "Look at how she looks at him," Mr. Olu continued. "It's almost like, well, I don't know. I hope everything is all right with her." Lola sighed, her expression softening. "Maybe we're overthinking this. She could just be a very dedicated nanny. Some people are naturally good with children." "That's true," Mr. Olu agreed, but he still looked concerned. "But don't you find it odd how quickly Tunde bonded with her? He cries whenever she's not around." Lola reached out and patted her husband's hand. "I understand your concerns, but let's not worry too much about it. She's taking excellent care of Tunde, and that's what matters most." They fell silent for a moment, watching as BC gently rocked Tunde, who was starting to look sleepy. "You're right," Mr. Olu finally said. "She's probably just trying to be a loving nanny. As long as Tunde is happy and well cared for, we shouldn't complain." Lola nodded, smiling as she saw Tunde yawn in BC's arms. "Exactly," Let's be grateful we found someone who cares for our son so deeply. BC was tidying up Tunde's toys in the garden when she noticed Mr. Olu and Lola talking on the patio. She couldn't hear their words clearly, but their frequent glances in her direction made her uneasy. Pretending to be busy, she moved closer, straining to catch their conversation. As she picked up a stuffed animal, she heard Lola's voice. "That nanny's so much attached to Tunde." BC's heart raced. She bent down, feigning to tie her shoelace, listening intently. Mr. Olu's response made her blood run cold. Too attached to the baby? Oh no, BC thought, her hands shaking slightly as she placed the toy in the basket. She caught more snippets of their conversation, each word increasing her panic. As the couple's discussion ended, BC straightened up, her mind racing. "I have to be more careful," she whispered to herself. "They're getting suspicious. I need to watch my steps." She took a deep breath, forcing a calm expression as she turned towards the house, all the while thinking, "I can't lose this chance to be with my baby. I have to be smarter about this." For 10 long years, BC lived a double life in the billionaire's household. Every day was a delicate balance of caring for Tunde while hiding her true identity. She poured all her love into her son, savoring every moment they shared. "Tunde, have you finished your homework?" BC would ask, her voice gentle but firm. "Almost done, Nanny BC," the boy would reply, his face lighting up at her attention. As Tunde grew, BC marveled at his progress. She'd watch him learn to walk, talk, and eventually excel in his studies. Each milestone filled her with a bittersweet mix of pride and sadness. One evening, as she tucked him into bed, 9-year-old Tunde asked, "Nanny BC, why do you always look sad when you think I'm not watching?" BC's heart skipped a beat. "Oh, Tunde, I'm not sad. I'm just thinking sometimes," she replied, forcing a smile. "Nanny, can I tell you a secret?" 9-year-old Tunde whispered one day. BC's heart raced. "Of course, Tunde. You can tell me anything." "You're my favorite person in the whole world," he said, hugging her tightly. BC fought back tears. "Oh, Tunde, you're very special to me, too." Mr. Olu often boasted about Tunde's achievements. "Did you see Tunde's latest test scores?" he'd say to Lola. "He's at the top of his class again." "He's such a smart boy," Lola would agree, beaming with pride. BC would listen to these conversations, her heart swelling with pride but aching with the secret she carried. She'd think to herself, "That's my boy, my brilliant, beautiful boy." During quiet moments, BC would sometimes allow herself to imagine a different life. What if I had kept him? She'd wonder, but then she'd look around at the luxurious home, the opportunities Tunde had, and remind herself why she made her choice. "Nanny BC, can you help me with this math problem?" Tunde would call, snapping her out of her thoughts. "Of course, Tunde," she'd respond, grateful for another chance to be close to her son. "Let's figure it out together." One afternoon, 9-year-old Tunde was playing in the sitting room, running around with his toy airplane. As he zoomed past the ornate glass table, his elbow caught the edge of a delicate glass ornament. It toppled off the table and shattered on the marble floor with a loud crash. Tunde froze, his eyes wide with fear. "Oh no," he whispered. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the house. Within seconds, Lola, Tunde's adoptive mother, rushed into the room. Her eyes darted from the broken glass to Tunde, who was standing stock still next to the table. "Wait, what?" Lola exclaimed. Her face turned red with anger. "Tunde, you broke that glass on the table. I've told you so many times not to play near that table." Before Tunde could explain or apologize, Lola grabbed him by the arm and started spanking him. "How many times do I have to tell you? That glass was expensive." BC, who had been in the kitchen, ran into the room when she heard the commotion. Her heart broke as she watched Lola punishing Tunde. It took every ounce of self-control not to intervene. She clenched her fists, fighting the urge to protect her son. After the beating, Tunde ran to his room, sobbing. Lola, still fuming, stormed back to her own room without a word to BC. BC waited a few minutes, then quietly knocked on Tunde's door. "Tunde, can I come in?" A muffled yes came from inside. BC entered to find Tunde curled up on his bed, his face streaked with tears. She sat down beside him and gently stroked his back. I know you're sad now, Tunde, BC said softly. What happened was an accident. Next time, if you want to play, just come outside with me, okay? I'm always here for you. Tunde looked up at her, his eyes red and puffy. I didn't mean to break it, he sniffled. I was just playing. I know, sweetheart, BC soothed. Accidents happen. Tunde sat up and threw his arms around BC. I just wish you were my mother, he cried. I love you so much. BC felt her heart shatter. Tears welled up in her eyes as she hugged Tunde tightly. If only he knew the truth. Please stop crying, Tunde said, noticing BC's tears. Did I say something wrong? I wish my mom was like you. BC quickly wiped her eyes. No, you didn't say anything wrong, she assured him. Don't worry about your mother, Tunde. She's not a bad person. She was just angry because that glass was expensive. She loves you very much. But you never get angry like that, Tunde pointed out. BC sighed. Everyone shows love differently, Tunde. Your mother loves you in her own way. After comforting Tunde for a while longer, BC left his room. As she closed the door, she heard Tunde whisper, I wish my mother was just like my nanny. BC leaned against the wall outside Tunde's room, her emotions overwhelming her. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. She was Tunde's real mother, yet she couldn't tell him. She had to watch another woman raise her son, sometimes in ways she didn't agree with, and there was nothing she could do about it. Oh, Tunde, she whispered to herself. If only you knew how much I love you. After comforting Tunde, BC retreated to her small room in the servants' quarters. As soon as she closed the door, she broke down in tears. My baby, she sobbed quietly, sinking onto her bed. Oh, Tunde, if only you knew. BC's mind raced with Tunde's words. I wish you were my mother. The irony of it all was too much to bear. I am your mother, she whispered to the empty room. I've always been your mother. As her tears subsided, a dangerous thought began to form in BC's mind. Maybe I should tell him the truth, she muttered. Maybe we could leave this place together. But fear quickly set in. No, it's too risky, she argued with herself. What if they don't believe me? What if they take Tunde away? BC paced her small room, torn between her desire to claim her son and the reality of their situation. There has to be a way, she said. I just need to find it. After that emotional day, BC couldn't shake the idea of revealing the truth to Tunde. She spent nights tossing and turning, imagining different scenarios. I could just tell him outright, she mumbled to herself one night. But no, he's so young. He might not understand. During the day, she watched Tunde closely, noticing his growing sadness. One afternoon, she found him staring out the window instead of doing his homework. Tunde, sweetie, aren't you supposed to be studying? She asked gently. Tunde sighed. What's the point? Mom and Dad are never around to see my grades anyway. BC's heart ached. They're just busy with work, Tunde. They still care about you. But you're always here, Tunde said, looking at her with sad eyes. Why can't they be more like you? BC swallowed hard, fighting back tears. Everyone has different responsibilities, Tunde. Your parents love you very much. As Tunde turned back to the window, BC thought, oh, my sweet boy. If only I could tell you the whole truth. Days later, Tunde's life had turned into a nightmare. Once known throughout the school for his intelligence and academic prowess, the popular and brilliant boy now found himself struggling. His grades had plummeted dramatically, dropping from first place to third from last in his class. At home, the situation was equally dire. His father would bellow at him, his face red with anger. What's wrong with you, Tunde? How could you let your grades slip like this? He'd shout, waving Tunde's report card in the air. His mother was no better. She'd yell and call him names, her words cutting deep. Are you trying to embarrass us? You used to be so smart. What happened to our brilliant son? She'd say, her voice dripping with disappointment. Neither of them seemed to care about what might be troubling their only child. They didn't take the time to sit down with Tunde to ask him if something was wrong or if he needed help. Their busy schedules and high expectations left no room for understanding or compassion. The constant criticism and lack of support at home took its toll on Tunde. He became lost in his thoughts, his mind a whirlpool of sadness and confusion. This internal turmoil directly impacted his academic performance, leading to a breakdown in his studies. At school, his teachers noticed the change. Mrs. Ada, his English teacher, approached him one day after class. "Tunde, is everything all right? You seem very distracted lately," she asked gently. Tunde just shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "I'm fine," he mumbled, even though he was far from it. Mr. Deo, his math teacher, also tried to reach out. "Tunde, your grades have dropped significantly. Is there something bothering you? You can talk to me if you need help," he offered. But Tunde wouldn't open up to them. He'd simply shake his head and walk away, leaving his concerned teachers at a loss. The only person Tunde felt he could turn to was BC. One evening, as she was helping him with his homework, he finally broke down. "Nanny BC," he said, his voice quivering, "I don't know what to do anymore. Nothing I do seems good enough for Mom and Dad." BC's heart ached as she listened to her son's pain. "Oh, Tunde," she said softly, putting an arm around his shoulders. "What makes you feel that way?" Tunde's words came out in a rush. "They're always yelling at me about my grades. They don't care about anything else. They don't even ask how I'm feeling or if something's wrong. It's like they only love me when I'm perfect." BC fought back tears as she hugged Tunde close. "Your parents love you very much, Tunde. They just have a hard time showing it sometimes. But I'm here for you, always. You can tell me anything, okay?" Tunde nodded, burying his face in BC's shoulder. In that moment, BC wished more than ever that she could tell Tunde the truth, that she was his real mother and that she loved him unconditionally. But for now, all she could do was hold him and offer what comfort she could. Tunde's academic performance had been suffering due to his worries about his parents' busy schedules and their seeming lack of interest in his life. Once a top student, he had slipped to the middle of his class. However, with BC's constant support and encouragement, Tunde started to regain his focus on his studies. One day after class, Tunde's teacher, Mrs. Ada, called out to him. "Tunde, can I speak with you for a moment?" Tunde turned back, a bit nervous. "Yes, Mrs. Ada?" Mrs. Ada smiled warmly. "Tunde, I've noticed a significant improvement in your academic performance lately. Your grades have shot up and you're participating more in class discussions. I'm really impressed with the new Tunde I'm seeing." Tunde beamed with pride. "Thank you, Mrs. Ada. I've been trying harder." "Well, your efforts haven't gone unnoticed," Mrs. Ada continued. "In fact, I've spoken with the school principal about you. We would like you to represent our school in the upcoming national competition. It's a contest between 2 different schools across Nigeria." Tunde's eyes widened in surprise and excitement. "Really? Me?" Mrs. Ada nodded. "Yes, you. We believe you have the potential to do very well." Tunde couldn't contain his excitement. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Ada. I promise I'll do my best. I want to put our school on the map as one of the best schools, not just in Nigeria, but in all of Africa." Mrs. Ada's face lit up with delight at Tunde's enthusiasm. "That's the spirit, Tunde. Your newfound wisdom and dedication are truly impressive. Keep up the great work, and I'm sure you'll make us all proud." As Tunde left the classroom, he couldn't wait to share the news with BC. He found her in the kitchen preparing dinner. Nanny BC, he called out excitedly. "You won't believe what happened today." BC turned to him, smiling at his enthusiasm. "What is it, Tunde?" "Mrs. Ada said I'm going to represent our school in a big competition. It's against 2 other schools in Nigeria," Tunde exclaimed. BC's face beamed with pride. "Oh, Tunde, that's wonderful news. I'm so proud of you." Tunde hugged BC tightly. "It's all thanks to you, Nanny. You always listen to me and encourage me. You make me want to do better." BC felt tears welling up in her eyes as she hugged her son back. "You did all the hard work, Tunde. You should be very proud of yourself." As they celebrated Tunde's achievement, BC couldn't help but feel a mix of joy and sadness. She was immensely proud of her son, but she wished she could share this moment with him as his mother, not just his nanny. The school competition arrived quickly, and Tunde put his whole heart into representing his school. He had spent weeks preparing, staying up late to study and practice. On the day of the competition, Tunde felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he stood on the stage. "You can do this, Tunde," he whispered to himself, taking a deep breath before starting his presentation. His hard work paid off. Tunde's performance was outstanding, impressing both the judges and the audience. When the results were announced, Tunde's school was declared the winner, recognized as one of the best schools in the area. And the winner is Tunde from King's Academy. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. The entire auditorium erupted in cheers. Tunde's classmates rushed to congratulate him, patting him on the back and shouting words of praise. "You did it, Tunde," his best friend Wale exclaimed. "You were amazing up there." Tunde's exceptional showing caught the attention of government officials present at the event. The governor, impressed by Tunde's brilliance and bravery, made a decision on the spot. "This young man represents the best of our state," the governor announced. "I'm proud to award Tunde a prize of 20 million naira for his outstanding performance." The crowd gasped at the amount. Tunde stood there, stunned, unable to believe what he had just heard. Later that day, the school principal called Tunde to his office. He handed Tunde a letter, his face beaming with pride. "Tunde, make sure you give this to your parents," the principal said, his voice filled with excitement. "You're such a brilliant kid. The governor of our state has confirmed a cash prize of 20 million naira for you. Your parents will receive it next week." Tunde took the letter with shaking hands. "Thank you, sir," he managed to say, still in shock from the day's events. When Tunde got home, he found Lola sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. He approached her, his heart pounding with excitement to share the news. "Good afternoon, Mom," Tunde greeted, trying to keep his voice steady. Lola looked up from her phone. "Oh, my baby boy. How are you doing? How's school? I hope you didn't get into trouble with anyone," she asked, her tone more distracted than concerned. "I heard your mother screaming, Tunde. What's the good news?" Bisi asked, her voice filled with concern and interest. Tunde looked up at Bisi, feeling a sense of comfort in her presence. "My teacher gave me a prize for my parents," he explained. "She told me I won it for performing well at the school competition." Bisi's eyes lit up with pride. "This is great, I trust you. Now tell me exactly what this prize is," she urged, sitting down next to Tunde on the bed. Tunde took a deep breath before answering. "My teacher told me I won a prize of 20 million naira, sponsored by the governor of our state," he revealed, still hardly believing it himself. Bisi's jaw dropped. She almost fainted upon hearing the amount. "What a huge prize," she whispered, more to herself than to Tunde. Unable to control her emotions, Bisi quickly stood up. That's wonderful, Tunde. You deserve it," she said hastily, before leaving the room and retreating to her own quarters. Sitting alone in her small room, Bisi's mind raced. Tunde won a prize of 20 million naira. "My son," she thought, her heart swelling with pride and pain. "So this billionaire family is going to get all that money won by my son. That's impossible. This is the time to fight and get what is mine," she said quietly to herself. The idea of revealing her true identity as Tunde's real mother consumed her thoughts. She paced back and forth in the small space, weighing the pros and cons. "It's going to be hard," she muttered. "But with that prize money, our lives could change forever. We could have a fresh start, just Tunde and me." Bisi stopped pacing, her resolve hardening. "Whatever happens, I shall get Tunde back as my son. I'm his real mother. I carried him for 9 months, she declared to the empty room. Taking a deep breath, Bisi left her room and walked back to Tunde's door. Her hands were shaking as she knocked softly. "Come in," Tunde's voice called out. Bisi entered the room, her heart pounding. Tunde was sitting at his desk, working on some homework. "Nanny, is something wrong? Why do you look so scared?" Tunde asked, noticing her distress. Bisi stood there, frozen. The words she had rehearsed in her mind refused to come out. The more she tried to speak, the more frightened she became. "Tunde," she finally managed to say, her voice trembling. "Please, there's something I want to tell you." Tunde put down his pen and turned to face Bisi fully, concern etched on his young face. "What is it, Nanny? You can tell me anything," he said, his voice full of trust and affection. BC took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to say would change everything. The truth that she had kept hidden for so long was about to come out, and there was no going back. If you're eager to see how this story unfolds, please subscribe and let us know in the comments below. Type continue if you want to see part 2. Your feedback will help shape future videos on this channel.